All right, class, let's get going here with our second board's topic. Once again, technology and environmental changes from 8,000 BCE to 600 BCE. Our essential question, how did the river civilizations help create and spread to fill around the world? So there's essentially four different river civilizations that were able to literally spread around the world their ideas and advancements. Ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt emerged along the Nile River. Egyptians were able to predict the Nile River flooding, so it led to a much more stable food growing process. Most of Egypt was small towns and city along the Nile River. They didn't have huge metropolises or larger cities of the 100,000 plus that we had seen in other regions of the world. Egyptian achievements. King Menzies was able to unite Egypt and increase food production. Egyptians were polytheistic. They actually believed in the afterlife, and thus being so, they created pyramids. Pyramids were used to worship, huge monoliths used to house mummies. And so the Egyptians, as most of us know, spent a great deal of time in the mummification process of some of their leaders. Women often held higher positions in Egypt. Queen Hatshepsut, which was the first female ruler in history, ruled for 22 years. By the year 1100 BCE, Egypt started to decline. So the Egyptians had their time in the light before this time, but it was at this point that the Egyptians started to decline. Now, another area was the Indus River Valley. The Indus River Valley in northern India was the location of two major cities, Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Both had more than 100,000 people. So for there to be 100,000 people, this long ago in one location was like amazing. From 2500 BCE to about 1900 BCE, this river valley was isolated by northern mountains, the Hindu Kush and the Himalayas. And they thrived. They thrived in this location. Around 1500 BCE, the Aryans from the north crossed over to the mountains. They came from the Caucasus region, Central Asia, and took over this region. The Aryans brought with them a set of polytheistic beliefs based on the Vedas and Upanishads, which are sacred books, which would become Hinduism. Hinduism is, of the world, the five major world religions, is by far the oldest. Hinduism impacted society and put tight social structures in place in India that would continue to India even to this day. Now in China, the Shang, China arose in Huanghe River Valley, or the Yellow River. The Shang dynasty ruled from 1600 to 1100 BCE. So this is considered one of the first dynasties of the long-lasting reign of dynasties that transpired all the way up until the 1900s in China. The Shang had a lot of technology, but was isolated from the rest of Eurasia. They had things bronze, horse chariots, pottery, silk. They had the decimal system, and they were able to create all of that in isolation. Chinese society was patriarchal. After the Shang started to decline, the Zhou dynasty took over. The Zhou ruled for 900 years. So you think about our country, the United States, we've been a country for a little more than 200 years. So just, times that number by 4, and that's how long the Shang were ruling. Longer than any other dynasty. They developed the mandate of heaven. The mandate of heaven is when a ruler claims that they have the right to rule because God told them so. And if you're questioning me, you're questioning God. All right, developed a feudal system, bureaucracies, to help run the kingdom. And that was all in the Zhou dynasty. Now, at the same time, over in West Africa, farmers in the Niger and Benue rivers began to migrate south and east, taking customs and culture with them. This was called, or is referred to as, the Bantu migrations that would carry on for more than 1,000 years, and it really pushed people into sub-Saharan Africa, all the way into the southern parts of Africa, and carried their traditions and customs with them. Zenojano was the first large urban center in sub-Saharan. It was started as a fishing village about 250 BCE, and it ran until about 400 CE. But advanced in small individual communities, so there wasn't one large urban area like we've seen in some of the other areas around the world. In Mesoamerica, so Central and South America, the Olmec, 1500 BCE to 400 BCE. This was in Central America. They were polytheistic. They developed writing, a calendar. So we're talking about the area in and around just south of where the Aztecs ruled and just north of where the Maya. So they were kind of tucked in there. But they were definitely predecessors to those other great civilizations that I just mentioned. And then you had the Chavan, which were down in South America, just north of where the Inca had their empire. 900 to 200 BCE in South America, developed on the coast with metal, llamas as beasts of burdens. The Chavan, like I just mentioned, the Olmec were predecessors to the Inca. Their empire was ruled more like city-states rather than by one ruler, which we would see with the Inca shortly thereafter. So remember, history's no mystery. Take good notes.